Before we get into the video, make sure you guys like, subscribe if you're new. I mean, come on, what are you doing if you're not sub to me by now? My content is fire, from Transformers news videos to stop motions to reviews to toy photography to music to other art forms occasionally. My Instagram and TikTok are all linked down below. And yeah, let's get straight to it. Okay, so for those of you that may be watching the news, you know that down here in Florida, Fort Lauderdale, Tampa Bay area, Miami, we're getting hit with rain, and especially in Tampa, we're getting Tampa Bay. I don't live in Tampa, but up there, they're supposed to be getting very strong hurricane-like weather. So I figured, well, I'm getting rained in these next couple days this week. I want to go on a trip down memory lane. For me, at least, because this was a big part of my childhood, as some of you know. I want to talk about some concept art from the 2007 film. I just want to go through, I picked out 20 images that I downloaded off Google, and I just want to go through and talk about the differences between the final version and what we got during concept art, the couple years that they were drawing up the design. So first off, I'm just going to go down the list. I've got about 20 pictures. Just sit on back, grab a snack, and listen to me ramble about some Transformers Bayverse designs, alright? Alright, so first up, we got Bonecrusher. Loading. Okay, here we go. And this design, let me see if I could zoom in. Does it have a date at the bottom? It says, okay, so January 4th, 2005. Oh, wow. A couple days right after New Year. That's some dedication right there to draw up a sketch like that. Okay, so the main difference here is the head. You know, he has the classic, you know, sort of G1 Decepticon visor type head, which we obviously know now was changed for the final film. And you could see here he has those flexible arm things that extend out like it did on the original 2007 Deluxe toy and the TF Dream Factory fourth party Bonecrusher that came out a few years ago, which I just got, which is right over here. Let me go grab it. Okay. It could also do that. As you can see right there, it could extend its arms. So we got a little bit of concept art reference there. And for Hasbro's deluxe figure back then, it was obviously just a case of they were just basing it off concept art and they didn't have final renders of the film. So those are the main differences I could spot right off the bat. Maybe some of them are missing, maybe the final version is missing some extra details and rivets, because I think they simplified a lot of these designs so it could fit more in the toy aesthetic, if you could believe it. Simplified Bayverse designs. I mean, these things are already complex, the final versions. But some of these concept art designs are pretty complex compared to what we got, which I know, surprising, but you're going to see a little bit more of that down the line here. Next up, we got Brawl. Loading, okay. Wow, TFW had a whole watermark debacle on this thing back then, back in, what was this, 2006 when these leaked out? Okay, so this is basically, oh, he was called Demolisher back when these, the whole name situation with this guy is very confusing. He was called Demolisher in concept art. He was called Devastator in the film. He was called Brawl by production crew. And I think he was also credited in the movie on the end credits as Brawl / I think it was Devastator. And the toy, he was called Brawl. No mention of Devastator or Demolisher. So, very confusing name type deal with this guy. The tank is pretty much the same thing. I think the colors for the tank are a bit different in the final film. But this is definitely what we got during the toys, so this is definitely what the toys were based off of, I'd say. I think the main difference with this guy is the amount of sharp edges and different details all along him. I think they simplified it just a tad bit here. And in the guns, specifically the arm-mounted Gatling gun on his right arm, is a bit different than what we finally got in the CG render. So, not too much different with this guy. His head is pretty much the same, I'd say. Okay, so I was having a bit of a technical problem loading this Optimus image for whatever reason. I have no idea what just happened. But this was sort of what I was talking about, where they had to simplify some of the designs. This Optimus design right here is absolutely all over the place. Like, basically the only like main thing you could see from the car mode is the front of the chest windows and the grill, and then the wheels uncoiling in the middle of his knees there, which is absolutely wild. And then obviously that head is absolutely insane. Like, besides his mouth being covered and having that mouth guard, it looks nothing like Optimus. And obviously he's mostly blue with red flames instead of the more red that we got in the final version. And his gun is different, but we did sort of get this on the 2007 Leader Class figure. When you flip out the gun, the underneath section also flips out a gun section, which is very similar looking to this. And we also got that gun thing underneath his arm in some children's books, I think it was, and some other concept art in Hasbro, and even official Hasbro CG renders of the characters. They had this sort of gun there for Optimus. Now this is very different. This is different than what we got in the final version of the film. Zooming in here. I did cover a concept art that came out a few months ago on this channel. I did a separate video on it because I thought it was really interesting, and it seemed like the 77 Camaro toy actually used some elements of that. And this is not too bad. In terms of the head, I like these heads better than what we actually got in the final version of the film. I've never really been that big of a fan of Bumblebee's head that they chose to use. I think these look way more cooler and way more evocative of what Bumblebee usually is. Obviously, he still doesn't have a mouth, but I think it just looks less skeleton-like and more friendly, which is what Bumblebee is supposed to be. This one has a totally different chest design, and these two are more in line with what we got in the final version, and then the legs are pretty much the same with minor differences. That head is absolutely horrifying. I have no idea what they were thinking with that head. I know with the Decepticons what they were going for. They were going for more of like a scary horror type look, but this just looks like a scary looking bald dude that just never went outside in the sun. Like, I just don't like that head design for Starscream at all. And I know a lot of people in general don't like this Starscream design to begin with. You know, he's shaped like a Dorito. I can understand why, but this is the Starscream that I mainly grew up with, so I'm used to it by now at this point. It's been like indoctrinated into my brain that this is how Starscream is supposed to look. But the main thing is the head here, and the arms are a bit different in terms of the details, and the lower legs have a bit more rigidy, sharp edges and details on there than what we got in the final version. Blackout, he was called Incinerator in this version at this time of the story, and this concept art right here is dated May 24th, 2006. So this was around the time they were filming, so they were still trying to finalize stuff for the CG companies. And this is more or less what we got. The forearms are different than the final version of the film. And the lower legs, like I've stated with some of the other characters, have a bit more detailing than what was in the final cut of the film. And the upper, like these weapon sections and the rotor section up at the top of his head right here are also different than what we got in the movie, because it compresses more, and he doesn't have the rotor blades hanging off his back like a cape either. So the main things that are the same are the head and the chest section, and these pieces on the shoulders. This is a scale chart, an early scale chart for the Autobot team. This was back when Ironhide wasn't even a contender for the team. We had RC instead. For those of you who don't know, she was cut from the final film because they weren't sure how to explain female Transformers at the time. But even then, when she was introduced in Revenge of the Fallen, they didn't even explain that at all. She just appeared out of nowhere, so it didn't even matter. They should have just included her from the get-go. It also just shows you how much critical thinking was dropped in the making of Revenge of the Fallen. And as much as I enjoy the action and the nostalgia for Revenge of the Fallen, I can realize that a lot of what we got in the first film in terms of thinking about the story and the characters, we didn't get for the second movie. So, but the scale chart here, Optimus Prime is listed as 32 feet. So he's 2 feet more, or 3 feet more than, oh wait, no, he was 28 feet. So he was 4 feet more than what he usually was going to be in the final cut. And Ratchet is 24 feet, which I think is a foot or two more than what he ended up being, because I think Ironhide is the one that became 24 feet. Bumblebee 18 feet, I'm pretty sure he became 16 feet. Jazz 14 feet, I think he got bumped up to 15 or 16 feet. And RC at 9 feet, which I'm pretty sure they kept the same as when she appeared in Revenge of the Fallen. And then this was dated November 22nd, 2005, so RC seemed to be dropped pretty late in production, I'd say. And this Ratchet concept art is totally different than what we got. Colors, look, this is way more G1-esque. I'm going to cover... I actually have a separate image of this concept art, which I'm going to cover later on in the video. We have some Optimus Prime head concepts. These are dated January 31st, 2006. And these have more of like a Japanese samurai sort of look to them, which is kind of cool. This definitely looks like Optimus, just way more stylized. And I'd say the mouth... his without the mouth guard looks a bit better than the final version. I wish they sort of like placed this mouth design on top of the head that we got in the end. But this isn't too bad. I don't hate this. If we got this, I wouldn't be mad at it. Some Jazz concept here. This seems to be like a leaked image. I didn't see a better high quality one. I think this was one of the concept arts that got leaked back in, I think it was 2006 when that whole debacle happened. And here Jazz has what looks to be a crossbow, and he has a shield which actually made it into the deluxe class toy that came out in 2007. And then the gun that he actually used in the movie is a bit different here. It's longer and skinnier at the barrel, which is sort of what we got in the 2007 toy. It was a mix of the concept art and the final version, from what I remember. So Jazz had a lot more weapons than what was showed. I think, if I remember correctly, the only thing that he used in the movie was this umbrella-looking gun, which is like his classic mainstay gun from Bayverse. And I think he used some sort of gun that came from his hands when him and Megatron fought there for a few seconds before he met his poor demise. This is dated December 5th, 2005, so even more recent, a couple weeks more recent than the scale chart that had RC in it. And this is basically the 2007 deluxe class figure here. But this is way more complex in terms of the design, and her shoulder-mounted cannon is, or not her shoulder-mount, her arm-mounted cannon is different than what we got in the final toy. But we have those weird wheel bra thing. I still don't know what that's supposed to be. I mean, it looks cool, but it looks like a bra or something. It does look a little weird. I can see how people don't like that, but this is way more evocative of her G1 design in terms of the colors and the head design a little bit. I would have preferred this design. I do like the weird quirkiness of her Revenge of the Fallen design. Her just having a wheel for legs, which was pretty cool to me. So Bumblebee, he looks a bit different here. The shoulder cannons look quite a bit different. They have more of like a circular shape. Jazz, he has like that arm blade thing, which was what the weapon that he came with for the original first wave of deluxe class Jazz figure that came out in 2007. So that's where that comes from. And then Jazz, or not Jazz, Ratchet. Jesus, I'm losing myself here. Ratchet, he has that axe thing that was in the original Voyager class. He has this weird, like, lower shoulder mounted cannon to the side here, which I don't think was ever used in any toys. And then Optimus, he has this grappling hook, which I think was used in one of those gimmick toys. And then he has this gun here, which was used for the leader class figure. The leader class figure is a bit more stumpy and pudgier, but this is pretty much how it looked. Just here is way more skinnier. And Optimus's head design is actually different here too, as you can see. And Ratchet is different too, with his chest, and his head is a bit different. So that's pretty cool. Barricade. Now, right off the bat, his head is way different. This is dated January 17th, 2006. Work in progress by Tony... What's that last name? Tony Kime? I don't know how you say that. But this looks pretty cool. I mean, it's similar to what we got, but the chest is different. The legs are different. The color scheme overall is different. It looks way more like Prowl because he has more of the white on there with the black highlights. There's no purple or blue like on the final version of Barricade. So, man, I'm having a messy hair day. My puffy afro hair really isn't working too good today. Oh man, but Barricade, this is an alright design. I prefer the final head design that we got, but not too shabby. And now we have here some Megatron head designs, which are totally different than what we got in the final version. Like, this is just way more scarier. And he has blue eyes here for some reason. Not sure what the decision was with that. These are also by Tony Kime. Yeah, these are strange head designs. The one on the left isn't too bad. It's very similar to what we got in the final version. And then we have some more Megatron head designs. These are more in line with the final version. And the ones on the left were more of what we were getting for the toys and marketing until it was changed the last minute because the TFW fanboys were outraged by his head design. But Jazz here, you can see they used his G1 design for a head study. And we have so many different looks here. We have one where the visor is split in half. The head here is totally different. All of these heads are totally different than what we got in the final. The chest here is basically the same, and then the spoiler on the back. But these heads are crazy. Battle mask? Question mark? But we obviously know he does have a battle mask type thing, which is just his shades that flip down, obviously. And here we have a Bumblebee head design. This is very early on, it looks like. Similar to the ones that I talked about earlier, but a bit different. I'm not really feeling that too much. It looks more like an Autobot drone than Bumblebee to me. But and then Ratchet, ooh, I gotta zoom in a lot on this one. This is a small image. Now, it's the Hummer vehicle mode that we know, but it's got the G1 colors. And then up top here, we have more of a traditional rescue vehicle. It looks like almost like a fire truck there. You know what? I think at one point that he was actually called Inferno, which is why there's a fire truck here. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments below, but I'm pretty sure this was Inferno at first. But yeah, way more G1 accurate design. He has the head crest and stuff. Yeah. We're getting down to the last couple here. These are the last two that I'm going to talk about in this video. We have a Megatron sketch, which is way more G1. Like, this is like just an updated G1 design, basically. I know a lot of fans would be more happy with this, but, you know, I don't really mind it. I just don't really care either way at this point. But this is pretty cool to, I mean, it's interesting that this is what they considered at one point to show up in live action. Last up, this is the last concept art design that I will talk about in this video. We have Starscream. I know this is probably going to upset some people watching this, but I prefer the version that we got in the final cut. This is more of like his maybe Unicron trilogy type design, or his G2. It's got more of like a G2 Cyberjet type feel to it. The head is very Unicron trilogy. This company, what was the name of this company? I think Black Mass did this concept art here and a bunch of others for the first and second movie. I think that's what the company's called, Black Mass. And their designs seem to be a lot more in line with what was going on with the Transformers brand at the time with Unicron trilogy and stuff like that in the comic books with IDW and Dreamwave. So that seems like what they were sort of basing this off of, but I could see why they didn't go with it. But I'm sure I could see why a lot of people out there would prefer this design over Dorito Man. Yeah, guys, those are the 20 or so concept art images that I wanted to talk about in this video. Basically, just give you guys my thoughts on them. And a lot of these are very cool to see. It's like a time capsule at this point, almost 20 years ago, seeing these designs. And I'm sure some of you out there have never seen some of these pictures before. Some of my younger subscribers out there probably haven't seen pretty much all of these. But yeah, let me know down in the comments below which of these concept arts do you think was your favorite that I talked about in this video, or it could be even one that I didn't even cover in this video, because at this point, 16, 15, 17 years ago, a lot of the concept art that's been worked on has already been released at this point, and there's probably still some that we haven't seen. There were a few new ones that got out this year, so there's definitely some out there that we still haven't seen. But yeah, that's pretty much all I gotta say in this video.
Congratulations, you have made it to the end of this video.